shortly. You have successfully joined the webcast. Please stand by. The meeting will begin shortly. You have successfully joined the webcast. Please stand by. The meeting will begin shortly.
Good morning. My name is Kevin Law, and as chair, and I call to order the Audit and Budget Committee members of the New York State Urban Development Corporation doing business as Empire State Development for Thursday, March 26, 2026. I'll note for the record that this meeting is being webcasted. The public was given an opportunity to comment on the agenda by submitting written comments by noon yesterday, and no comments were received from the public concerning today's agenda. And we do not have any members of the public here in attendance. The committee members have received the materials in advance of today's meeting and of course are free to ask questions at any time. There is no voting items on today's agenda, so no need for asking if there's any potential conflicts. Before we get started, I'll just ask folks to go around the room and introduce themselves, starting with Michael.
Michael Rosen, Director.
Ray Orlando, Chief Financial Officer.
Tony D'Alessio, Deputy CFO, Controller.
Stephen Kanako, VP Internal Audit.
Esther Buff, Internal Audit Manager.
Gene Kwiatkowski, Senior Director of Budgeting.
Tremaine Wright, Director of Compliance.
Joshua Bloodworth, General Counsel.
CFO.
Benson Martin, Designee DFS.
And Benson, thank you. For me, Benson and Michael here, we have a quorum to conduct our business. So I will now ask Anthony D'Alessio, ESD's Deputy Chief Financial Officer and Controller, to lead our discussion on the first agenda item relating to the fiscal year 2026-2027 proposed annual operating budget and non-programmatic capital expense. Anthony?
Thank you, Chairman, Directors, ESD Senior Staff. ESD is statutorily required to have all our financial year budgets approved by the Board of Directors of ESD and filed with the Office of the State Controller by April 1. Okay. The fiscal year 26-27 budget that's being proposed, operating budget that's being proposed, is $161 million, which represents approximately a 3.5% decrease or $5.9 million under the budget for 25-26 of $166.9 million. $44 million of our fiscal year 26-27 budget really represents monies that we will be getting from the federal, the state, and other third-party resources. That's about a $9 million increase over last year, which equates to monies that is being appropriated by New York State for the GoSemi project, for the OCO Global Initiatives contract, etc., for various things, consultants, travel, occupancy, etc. The proposed operating budget, as you know, reflects sort of our continued staffing, consultants, and other initiatives that we need in order to continue with the plan. The budget, the operating budget, also includes the activities of these subsidiaries, 4 subsidiaries, which you'll see in a few minutes. Okay. If any changes result from the passage of the governor's enacted state budget, we would bring any respective changes to our budget to the board for discussion. Looking at the composition of the $161 million fiscal year 26-27 budget, $95.2 million represents personal services, salaries, and fringe benefits. That amount is approximately a 3.8% decrease, or $3.8 million under last year's operating budget for PS, which was $99 million. That decrease really reflects sort of a reduction in some of our open positions for staff members. In addition to keeping the fringe benefit rate flat at 42%, at last year's audit committee meeting, we had a discussion of the fringe benefit rate of 42%. The fiscal year 26-27, we're keeping that rate the same. The non-personal services, NPS, for the 26-27 operating budget equates to $58.5 million, which is approximately a 5.2% decrease over last year's budget, or $3.2 million. Last year's budget for NPS was $61.7 billion. That decrease is largely contributed to a shift for the program consultants for the GoSemi project to future years, offset obviously by increases for things relating to office space, IT needs, professional development, insurance, etc. The other piece to the operating budget of the $161 million for 26-27 fiscal year includes $7.3 million for support for certain ESD subsidiaries. Okay. Erie Canal, HCDC, Queens West, and USA Niagara. That $7.3 million this year is about $1 million increase for those four subsidiaries last year. The budget was $6 million. The difference really equates to two major things: the additional lease expense and build out for HCDC, which will be getting new space, in addition to an amount for remediation expenses that Queens West is incurring for Parcel 8 in Long Island City, and we have to share a piece of that. So the increases from last year to this year, the majority of that relates to those two items for the two subs, as I indicated. The last piece of the operating budget of $161 million really accounts for the non-programmatic capital expense, which really is $12 million. It's about $1 million above last year, a 9.1% increase. Last year was $11 million. This year it's $12 million. The increases really relate to continuation of us moving to the cloud and the enhancement of the website because of the state's global platform, number one. Number two, we are sort of enhancing our GDA, grant disbursement agreements, loan payment process, to alleviate and reduce some of the bottlenecks involved. So that is another piece of the increase. And the other major piece to the non-programmatic capital expense budget relates to company vehicles that are needed. All in all, that $1 million is fully accounted for. The next steps, Chairman, upon recommendation by the audit committee, this budget would be presented to the board this morning, the full ESD board. After approval by the board, the budget would be posted to our website and filed with the Office of the State Controller, as I indicated, as required by state finance law. I'd happy to entertain any questions you may have.
Great. Very thorough, Tony. I got at least three questions for you. So just, so this is for the UDC, the authority budget, the ESD budget. Okay. And when the state budget gets wrapped up, presumably next week or so, that'll primarily deal with the Department of Economic Development, but there could be some things in that budget that impact the authority as well.
Correct. And if there was anything that would change the presentation here and what we're including in the operating budget, we would come back to the board.
Got it.
We try to leave headspace for us in the event something happens because of the timeline. So we have to be done before April 1st, and they don't have to be done until So we're always out of sync.
What do you
So
call
we're
it?
trying to-
Headspace?
The headspace.
Oh, headspace.
Those legal headspace.
Very good.
Little word, yeah.
I think-
Because in the event that a big initiative comes, might require some additional staff. So there's a little room for that. But the big programs obviously come to you guys as they always do.
Got it.
And we really don't include any of the proposals that in the executive budget 26, 27, programmatic, et cetera. But we are cognizant and we look at that and we're in sync with everything.
Got it. Next question is, you started off by saying it's generally like a $5 million decrease from last year, and then 3.9 of that is for personnel services. And most of those are vacancies that we haven't filled. Correct.
One of the things that happens is, you think you're going to need 7 people, maybe you only need 5.
Right.
Another thing that happens is an old initiative kind of gets going and underway, and then you still have those vacant positions, but then you decide, well, maybe you want to do something else with those folks, right? And so there's a lot of nipping and tucking this year, right? Where we were like, if we created this opening in like a year or 2 ago and it never got filled, or
Maybe-
like this,
maybe we don't need it.
maybe we don't need it. Very limited. I think the net, I wouldn't say the net was like 10 or 12
Got it.
overall change. So, but everyone's fully, so no one's being reduced.
Makes
to What
sense.
they need to do.
Makes sense. The bulk of our budget is for personnel and fringes. What are like the top 2 items of NPS?
The NPS, I would say the top 2 items is the consulting expense. Okay, number 1. And then we have occupancy, which is also, I would say, at the top of.
You mean like
of the
our
list.
rent?
Our rent on the subsidy insurance as well.
Our rent for here and all the subs?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And one of the big increases on the capital side, as Tony mentioned, is the Harlem Community Development Corporation's needs new space. So there's money in the capital budget for their space. The upcoming.
Got it.
That's the major change in that budget year over year. But yeah, mostly what we do, right, is we use people, right, and we use consultants to support. That's our bread and butter.
Makes sense. Makes sense.
That's what we do.
And last question, the 42% of our budget that makes up the fringe, how does that compare with, say, other state authorities like the MTA? And how does that compare with, like, say, the state agencies in their annual budgets? Are they in the 40% range as well?
In recent years, what we've done is we had been at sort of 38 a few years back. And as we were looking, we weren't comfortable that was the right level. So we wanted to give ourselves a little more space to be more consistent with other folks. For folks like us, who are sort of what we call civilians, that sort of runs in the 40 to 50 range across sort of public agencies and authorities. Uniformed folks, hugely expensive. Those folks are like 100% fringe rate. So the cost of your fringe is as much as your salary for like a New York City firefighter or a New York City police officer. Hugely expensive. And then teachers are somewhere in between because some of their benefits are sort of more robust and richer. So they might be a little higher. But generally speaking, for civilians like us, it's like 40, 50. So
And is that the same for like regular state departments, like say the folks in the Department of Health and Budget or the
Yeah.
Department of,
that's sort of what it runs.
or the Department of Economic Development?
Yeah.
Is it in the 40% range?
Yeah.
Got it. All right.
And again, that's just pension and healthcare.
Yep.
And then all the other weird stuff from dental, vision.
Yep.
Weird stuff.
Yeah, weird stuff like that.
We actually
Okay.
do a detailed analysis of it to see whether we have to go up or down. And we're very happy with 42% being flat last year.
Good. All good. Yeah.
So it's really nice. And it's nice that we sort of like took a look this year. I had Tony and Gene and the budget team do a lot of visual teams. This was really this week. So, and so that's something I'm really happy came in sort of close to, but a little less than last year. As opposed to just continuing to grow. Close looking. Really nice result. The team did it.
Sounds good to me. Michael Benson, any questions?
No question.
Good. All right. So we don't need a motion. So and we don't need to approve it, but you'll present again upstairs.
Yeah.
All right. Very good.
Yeah.
And I may ask you 1 or 2 of those questions upstairs as well. Just so it looks like we're all paying attention to everything that you're doing.
Because we are.
We are. We are. All right. So thank you, Tony.
Sure. My pleasure. Thank you, Chair.
And so now I'm going to ask Steve Knopfler to make his presentation. He's our VP of Internal Audit, and He has, going to talk about the internal audit progress report and annual plan for internal audit cover. Steve?
Mr. Chair, morning directors. Since the prior audit committee meeting in June 2025, internal audit has completed 4 audits and issued the respective audit reports to the committee and to senior management. 3 audits and 1 monitoring review are currently in progress, and fieldwork is either completed or underway. Additionally, internal audit provides support to ESD's internal control officer and director of compliance in assessing internal control risk surveys completed by the ESD departments and subsidiaries, including DED. As the committee is aware, internal audit has responsibility over not only ESD, but DED. We present DED results to you, but they're not in the realm of the coverage of the audit committee. And since June, we've issued reports on ESD's Global New York, ESD Contracts Administration, the USA Niagara subsidiary in Western New York, and DED Finance. Currently, for the work in progress, we're completing an audit of the Erie Canal Harbor Development Corporation, another ESD subsidiary. We did a monitoring review of the Erie County Stadium Corporation, which will result in a memo to management, not a full audit report. We are currently doing field work on ESD's Connect All and ESD's Office of Supplier and Contractor Diversity. That's the progress report. I'm happy to entertain any questions before I move on to the next fiscal year plan.
And do all of those subs and or divisions, they know that they're on your radar screen for future audits?
Yes.
Got it.
Okay. As I said, moving on to the next fiscal year audit plan, ESD's internal audit department is responsible for both Empire State Development and the Department of Economic Development audit coverage. While the committee's scope of oversight only includes ESD, I tends to provide the details so we know what we're working on and where our hours are going. Appendix A of this report shows the internal audit plan for Empire State Development. We allocate 4,250 hours. 300 is a carryover of Connect All, a very large department we started in December of last year. Hope to finish that up in the beginning of this plan. We're going to look at life sciences, strategic workforce development, some of the small business and technology programs that we hadn't looked at in prior audits. We're going to do a regional office review, strategic business development, and then some small reviews on admin, ESD finance, and finishing up helping Tremaine with the internal control certification. Appendix B is the Department of Economic Department of Economic Development. We're going to look at some of the sales tax programs we haven't looked at. There's some new ones and some of the other ones that we haven't looked at in the past. We're also going to do a link deposit review. Last year, we were going to do the Office of Minority and Women Development. It's still under audit by the OSC. We're waiting for those results. The report has not been published yet. OSC doesn't let us know when they're going to be done, but we'll follow up on their issues as well. Appendix C shows how we break down the audit hours. So my plan has 5,200 hours, and with the 4 staff I have 5,192, so I'm 8 hours short. We'll find it somewhere. Internal audit does have an open position, and if we do fill that, which we hope to do this year, we would have more hours, obviously, to dedicate toward the plan and potentially cover more areas. That's my report. Happy to take any questions.
Thanks, Stephen. 2 questions for you. So you have the ability to audit both the DED as well as the UDC.
Yes.
And the state controller also could do either.
I believe they have the full responsibility to audit both, yes.
But do you guys ever coordinate, or how do you avoid duplication? Like if you're looking at something and the OSC is doing something, is there an opportunity to coordinate?
Not really. The OSC kind of just comes in and does what they're going to do. If the OSC is in a department, we'll tend not to go in the same time. I don't want to.
You'll know it.
I don't want.
You'll know they're looking at things, so you may decide. All right, we'll go focus on something else this month. Got it.
The OSC does look at our audit reports. They do when they come in to do an audit of a division or a department of ESD. They'll request if we've done an audit, and we provide them with our audit report.
Do you guys, have you ever, or do we audit the Excelsior tax credit program?
Yes, we do.
And when was the last time we did that?
2023.
Yeah, okay. And then last question, one program that seems to be a punch and bag at times from elected officials is the film tax credit program. You know, helping out movies and plays being made here, commercials, whatever else. Have we ever audited that, or is that a state controller function?
No, we would audit that as well. I know that the film and TV also has a mandate that they get an external audit done every year.
Okay,
And that's
Every 2 years.
every 2 years, sorry.
external.
Yes, and that's performed by an external audit firm as well, which releases a report.
And who oversees that audit firm, Ray? Is that something you do, or is that something?
The office does. The film people, we contract with an outside person.
Oh, I see.
We're required to do it
Yeah.
outside.
Right, and does
We-
that
we're done.
information get shared with the board, this committee? Why not?
Is that, is tax credits at the department? You can
Okay.
have it if you want.
Oh, no, oh, it's part of the DED.
Yeah.
So the film and tax credit's
Yeah.
part of DED.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're not responsible for that.
Right.
Got it. All right, sounds good.
Thank you.
All right, anybody else have any questions, Steve? All right, thank you. When do we do the annual financial statements?
In June.
June, all right, so because we meet twice a year, right? Isn't that? All right.
Yeah.
Very good.
So
So
we're just here, let's do the preliminary.
doing the stuff.
They were in this conference.
I swear we meet with them, right?
That's correct. Yeah,
That's why this,
This is where all of the important financial activities.
like, it all starts with you.
Pretty much.
All right. Is there any other business for us to address it, sir? Hearing none. I'll move to adjourn. Michael seconds it. All in favor? Aye. We are adjourned. Thank you, team and staff, for what you do.
Thank you.
Thank you.